Yo, what is good, my anime faithful? What is good, yo? So, a couple of quick things before we get into this World Trigger talk is one, I wouldn't be talking about World Trigger right now if we actually had some anime to talk about on Tuesdays, and two, World Trigger was announced for another season around December 19th, or December like 21st in 2019. So to not have really anything else to go off of recently is getting kind of scary. But regardless of that, I am happy to say that this is a must watch show, and it's also one of the shows that I think has one of the worst things I've seen a dub uh, like decision made in quite some time. Like I've seen a lot of dubs, and Bleach being one of those shows that just dub or sub, you're getting what you're getting. Um, this show, World Trigger, did not go that route or didn't think it was important to do that. So, for some reason, I always had been hearing huge complaints about the show, and especially like this day and age when it came down to talking about animation, talking about how things overall look and feel. And here's the thing I wanted to always kind of put out there about World Trigger and why its animation style and playful characters that are in the show were still relatively fun for me to watch, and I had no problem just sitting through whatever I was seeing. For one reason, the show looked the way it looked is imagine trying to animate a, a show that has like I forget how many episodes this show has now. It's a lot. It has a lot of episodes, and picture yourself now just um, animating at the quality of I don't know Goku versus Jiren, or for instance a great show that I think didn't have the best looking visuals was Avatar: The Last Airbender. But all of a sudden, when you get into a fight after knowing these characters and the stakes feel higher, the animation and all that stuff didn't really matter how it looked because uh, they tone it up for those fights. They like to chill out when it's just comedy and story building. All of a sudden, Fire Lord comes into the show and people are trying to say it's the top animated fights of all times, not just a good fight in the show, but one of the best of all times. And they still don't even consider it an anime. um, so you then go to the notion of like how many episodes are in these ridiculously amazing shows, and then how many of those shows look and have the quality of One Punch Man season one or something throughout it. If One Punch Man season one was about all the episodes from season two and season one, and those people had to make it, I don't think it would have looked as good consistently on a consistent basis. That's just how it is. Like, once you know a set amount of episodes you have to do, and that's about it, it's really not that hard. And that's why I think this show was growing on me because it had like I think it had like 75 episodes, guys. I'm trying to look it up while I'm being productive on this video, but it's these types of things that gave me a little bit of wiggle room when it came down to judging it, and not only judging it, seeing where the story was going to go. I had a pretty good idea that they were going to show me everything. They weren't going to cop back on anything. Yeah, it had 73 episodes. I was gonna say 75, so I was off by two. But yeah, 73 episodes, and it's it takes a really big break out of nowhere, and come to find out, uh, even the manga was getting hit with these big breaks because the author, his health was failing. Like he just wasn't feeling good. He was, I'm pretty sure, hospitalized at some point. I think he's just overworking himself, and these are the types of, start to understand that stuff in general, right? You just kind of get the gist of it, and if you don't, you're just one of the people that don't care about the life. You more or less care about the story being finished, and that's probably why you're angry. You know, there's people that they can feel that way. You have the right to feel that way, but if you give someone a chance and let them recover and stop bugging him about it, he might feel obligated to finishing something he's already created and probably wants to see the end of himself. Um, this show's animation wasn't the greatest, but I think the 73 episodes that you just get involved in is amazing. Now, for the biggest thing the dub did wrong, uh, they took out a whole entire arc because they think it was filler, but they themselves then make it not filler by talking about it just like how the sub talked about it. So here's my problem with filler, okay? It can be done so right. In the way that this filler that was skipped in the dub was done in the sub, I feel like they could have even stepped it up a notch. Like they could have added some new dialogue, and you know, people needed to see that there was other uh, worlds out there. There was other places than the one that happened to attack us, and we were preparing to make a squad to go out after the people we lost. That there was multiple. There's more than one, and I'm pretty sure these people in this filler wasn't from the one that actually came down and stole from us. And even if they were, at the end of the filler, they end up going to a different world where they aren't being chased down, where they aren't considered neighbors here in our world, and why they should be elsewhere. So, if I've lost you completely because you don't even know what World Trigger is, I apologize. World Trigger is a show where our normal world as we know it has been invaded, and after it was invaded, these things we like to call the neighbors showed up and even turned our humans into these like sources of energy that they need to use. Um, Not only can this thing can be used as sources of energy, um, it can also be seen as something uh, that could hold the whole entire future of their world in the case of how their world is sufficed and stuff like that. That kind of gets into like more spoiler stuff because that's all at the end of the season. If you want to watch this fresh, you're gonna know too much or something, you know. So there's a lot like that. But everything that's going on in our world, the neighbors just keep showing up. We're trying to train, we're trying to learn, you know, new ways to fight, different stuff like that, and these neighbors just show up whenever they want, looking for humans to steal back, or um, even our people, the people that fight them, have more energy than just basic humans sometimes, so they like to steal those people as well. Um, but the combat reminds me of some like really fast and loose sword play. The reason why I say loose is because the strategies and the overall position some of the heroes and stuff take to counteract just the fighters in general are usually feeling like there's no way there's anything going on. There's no plans in this. This guy's just going head to head. Like then you look and you see that every character has really smart, thought out moves that they play, kind of like in chess, where they do something simple to hope that you bite on the bait. So, a lot of that, and it just gives me the feeling that the fighting is actually more thought out than, okay, this guy has to win because he's the main character, but this guy has to win because he's, ooh, yeah, yeah, really strong. You know, like it didn't feel like that. It felt like this guy knows his stuff with his weapon and these techniques that now all of a sudden he is taking the leaps and steps ahead of his opponents to defeat them. If you can get past this animation, you will absolutely love World Trigger. If you don't love World Trigger and the characters and stuff like that, and you don't mind the animation, then please do let me know what was the problem with it. Was it the pasting? Was it something that wasn't getting done? Because I do know the dub people had a huge weird skip, just a giant like 15 episode chunk deleted. And after all of that's being said and done, we have to go back and see a kid who has no abilities from the start and feels absolutely useless continuously showcase that he is not that. He's not useless. He's not um, one of the most obsolete people to have in these battles, because we come to find out that without him being there, some of the strategies that were displayed aren't always going to come true. Like if I say let's do this strategy and go through with it, someone might cut us off. And what do we do after we get cut off? And that's what the main character is about. He can make that split decision some of the times, and they didn't do it where he just is every single time he gets it right. He has to grind and even get smarter in that regard of knowing everything his team is capable of, everything the enemy may be capable of. And without knowing that stuff, he gets into a position in his mind where he feels like he can't ever win. And that's where the next main character steps in. The best character, Mr. Uh, Black Trigger himself, and just changes his perspective on things. Like sometimes you gotta go in willing to learn compared to willing to get defeated ultimately because your strategies don't fully hit its mark. I really love World Trigger. There's a lot of stuff I can go on about, but there's not a lot of time I have to continue this video. I could make a longer argument and I could talk about how people are wrong and stuff like that, but everybody's entitled to feel however they feel. I know the show wasn't perfect in no way, shape, or form, but getting 73 episodes of a show with the characters that were continuously growing in the days to come for the final episode where they didn't even know about the neighbors and how many there were out there in different regions, to now they're going to leave and start their attack on them to get their people back. So it's a roller coaster ride, and it's also something I think is worth a watch, and that's why you should watch World Trigger. Give it a chance. There's a lot of things that went into why it feels the way it does, and you can kind of see that throughout the show. I don't know how much cooperation the author has with the anime, like how much he's actually there to oversee and say he's green flagged and stuff. But with his health being what it is, um, and this may have been an ongoing occurrence, or just maybe it was happening recently during his finishing of the manga, regardless, there's something that was going on in the background, and if you can give him a little slap on the back and look past it, then I think you're in for a really good show. So just don't watch the dub. Watch the sub when it comes down to when all of a sudden a whole bunch of episodes skip, because I think that will help you out. Um, and yeah, because I can't believe they skipped this nice arc just because they thought it was filler. That's how I see it. Because then they did go back, do the more episodes, and reference that the team was gone on a trip somewhere, which that trip was where the filler took place. That is all. Take care, my anime people. I will be back to that daily schedule with whatever anime is about to be dropping soon on July, but for now, we still got to wait for Black Clover to take back its Tuesday slot, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.